Name's Val, and I'm 34 years old. My mom passed away when I was only 5 years old. My dad raised me for the next 7 years all by himself. When I was about 11, my dad told me that he was seeing someone. I was a child and I didn't really care much for it. When I turned 12, Dad introduced me to his girlfriend and told me that they were going to get married soon. The first thought that I had was that his girlfriend was really young. Dad introduced us to each other and told me that her name was Jody. I later found out that Jody was only 10 years older than me. I remember I was a little freaked out by such a short age gap between us, but I eventually stopped caring about it. Jody and I didn't have the best relationship. She was overbearing and she kept trying to be my mother. I tried to talk to my dad about it, but he thought that Jody was right. I didn't like it, and as soon as I turned 18, I moved out. Although I did move out, I still had a really good relationship with my dad. We would go out to get lunch every other weekend. I remember initially Dad would try to get me to involve Jody in my life, but when he saw I wasn't budging, he dropped it. Although he would tell me about how much he loved Jody in the hopes that I would come around to liking her because he loved her. I was doing pretty great in my life though. I managed to get a job at this reputed firm right out of college. I wasn't rich, nor was I living paycheck to paycheck. I was living comfortably. I had started saving right from the start, and in a couple of years I was doing amazingly. When I was 28, my dad got into a freak accident and ended up passing away. Dad's passing away was devastating for me. I couldn't believe that this was what my life had come to. The only family member I had was gone. I was a mess. I cried myself to sleep every night and I barely could function in the morning. I was lucky enough to get a week off of work to grieve. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jody, but I knew she loved my dad, so I made sure to check up on her regularly. The first time I met her, she looked normal. I didn't expect her to be wearing all black and mourning at home, but I did expect her to look a little worse for wear. I knew for a fact my eyes were very puffy and they had the darkest circles around them. My nose was red and my skin was splotchy from all the tears. Jody, on the other hand, looked like she was completely fine. Okay, I know this is coming off as judgmental, but I kind of hope to feel like I wasn't the only one grieving so hard for the man who was my world. But my suspicions went away after a little bit when I sat down with Jody to talk and she began to cry. We spoke for a while about how great my dad was and how the world feels empty without him. After that first visit, I started to visit Jody a lot more. We would have tea together and just talk about everything that we were feeling. I thought we were beginning to finally develop a connection. I was tired of her trying to replace the role of my mother, so it was nice to have talked to her as just her. One particular day, when we were talking, she suddenly burst into tears. I was alarmed because we weren't even talking about anything emotional. I got up from my seat and made my way over to her to let her cry into my shoulder. When she calmed down a bit, I asked her what was wrong. Is everything okay? What's wrong? I just got a letter from the bank. Uh-oh, what did they say? You know how I have been super busy with taking care of your dad these past few months, along with taking care of all the medical expenses? Yeah, well, I haven't had much money to pay off our mortgage, which has now transferred to me. I don't even have a job. I'm going to be homeless. Oh, no. Is that what the bank told you? Yeah, they've given me 4 months to pay off all my dues. Of course, along with the 4 months mortgage payments as well. I don't have that kind of money. Your dad didn't even leave me that much. I know. It's okay. No, it's not okay. Calm down, Jody. I have some money in my savings. I can help you out. Really? You do that for me? Yeah, of course. You've become someone I've come to understand recently, and I value you a lot. Plus, Dad would have been happy with me for doing this for you." "Thank you so much, Val." "If I do help you with your payments, I have 2 conditions." "Yeah?" "I can't rent a place and pay your mortgage. I will need to move in." "Of course, honey. This house is yours, too." "Great. Secondly, I can't keep paying off your mortgage. You need to find a job soon and start taking care of it. I can contribute half of it, but you'll still need to find a job. And over time, in the future, you'll need to pay me back too." "I promise I will." I did feel sympathetic towards Jody. Going from being financially stable to desolate is a very big and scary change. I couldn't have imagined what kind of anxiety Jody must have been feeling because of it. But I had quite a good amount in my savings. If there was one thing my dad taught me, it was always to have a good amount of savings, because you never know when hard times will fall. Over the next week, I contacted Jody's bank and got to working around the mortgage repayments and having the foreclosure nulled. Jody hadn't paid the mortgage in 4 months, so there was that, along with late fees and pre-foreclosure fees. In total, it racked up to be about $12,000. I had it in my savings, but it did make a pretty large dent in it. Jody was super grateful that I managed to help curb the foreclosure. She went all out and prepared a feast for me to say thanks. I was glad to see that she was actually being grateful, because the Jody I knew before would have acted a little entitled to my help. Although I did remind her that she needed to start job searching soon. She promised me that she had already started looking for jobs. I also moved in with Jody. It was pretty interesting to live with her again. Jody was a lot more demanding than I remembered her being, but I didn't mind that. She was just demanding that the house be spotless, although she did try to get me to be that way about my room too, but I put her in her place by telling her that my room was mine and I liked it the way it was. I respected her wanting the common areas to be clean, and so she should at least respect my wish for my room to be the way I want it to be. She gave in, and I suspected that was only because she knew that the reason she had a house to be demanding about was because of me. We did have tiny spats every once in a while, but for the most part, it was good to live with her. Slowly but surely, the weeks turned into months and the months into years. After a year passed, I began to be frustrated with Jody for not finding a job. She kept telling me she was searching for one, but I never saw any results. Hell, I didn't even hear her mention having an interview even once. I confronted her about it, and she got very defensive. "Jody, I don't mean to be that way, but when are you going to get a job?" "Do you think I'm not trying?" No, that's not what I meant. It's just been a year since you promised me, and I just need to have a definite time for how long I have to keep paying the mortgage." "I don't know when it will happen, okay?" "Have you had any interviews so far?" "No, but I haven't been getting any responses." "How about you apply for a part-time job at least?" "Ugh, no way." "I'm trying to help you out here. I can't keep paying your mortgage, Jody." "If it's that much of a hassle for you, then don't do it. I'll just be homeless. It's fine. Whatever. I'm sure your dad would have been happy to see me struggling like that." No, it's okay. I'll keep paying. But I'm telling you, I can't keep doing this." "Yeah, and I'll find a job. Just give me some time." It didn't click at that time, but for Jody to use my dad as a way to appeal to me was kind of messed up. I diligently paid off the mortgage for a while after that too. Jody did become a lot more overbearing after that. She began to get annoyed about when I got back home and who I hung out with during weekends. It irked me, but at first I didn't say anything. When she got out of hand, I stood up for myself and put her in her place yet again. She would always quiet down, but I would sense her dislike for me after. She would go weeks without properly talking to me, and I would feel so icky when I saw her the way she used to be when my dad was still alive. Regardless, I still helped her out. Another year passed and I decided to put my foot down. I never saw Jody make an effort to start working. I know it's wrong, but one day when she was out, I went through her emails on her laptop that she had left unlocked on her bed. I found out that in the past 2 years she had only applied to one firm, and that was also right after I agreed to help her pay off the mortgage. I was angry and disgusted with her ability to lie to me. After I had been so accommodating and nice to her, all she was doing was taking advantage of me. So when she came back home that night, I told her that I was no longer going to help her out. Needless to say, Jody did not take that well. How can you do this to me? I've given you 2 years to figure your things out. You've refused every form of advice I've given you, and you haven't made any effort to actually get your life together. You really think I haven't been making any efforts? Jody, I know you aren't making any effort. You're just making false accusations. All right, then why don't you show me all the places you've applied to this year? That's an invasion of my privacy. Look, I'm glad that you and I have been able to develop a pretty good relationship in the past few years, and I'm glad that I have been able to help you out. But I need to start looking out for my future too. I have never wanted to own my own house, and I hate that I'm stuck paying for something that has never been part of my plan. Oh God, what am I going to do? Jody sobbed for a long while, and it did get to me. Although that night I left her there because I was still angry with her. I decided to do a little research to maybe help Jody out. I knew that I couldn't keep providing for her, so if there was any way she could keep herself afloat, I'd like to be able to help her find it. The next day, Jody refused to talk to me, but I asked her if she would just listen to me. I informed her that she should file for bankruptcy so she could get an extension on the loan payments and even get time off from paying it for about 5 years. Jody finally acknowledged me and asked me if I could help her out with filing the paperwork. Of course, I told her that I would help her, and we spent the next few weeks getting everything approved. Once Jody was free of her mortgage payments for the next 5 years, I told her that she still had to get back on her feet once again. Jody coldly told me that she had things under control now and asked me to move on. Well, that hurts. But I guess that was what happened when you stopped letting someone use you. I moved out within the next month and I was doing good once again. My finances were back on track. I was able to get a promotion at work about 2 years after I moved out from Jody's place, which allowed me to save even more money and even make some big investments. Jody and I barely kept in contact. She didn't make any effort to contact me, but I tried because at the end of the day, she was my dad's wife and he loved her dearly. I would ask her how she was doing, and if she managed to find another job, she would always speak coldly towards me and tell me to mind my business. Even though I was upset about her behavior initially, I just kind of let it go after a while. My life was going on pretty well until one day, about 5 months after Jody's bankruptcy period was done, Jody showed up at my door. Now, I was surprised because I did not expect her to be there. I hadn't spoken to her for the past few months. I had an inkling about what she wanted, so I prepared myself to stand my ground and tell her that I wasn't going to help her out in any way. I invited her in, and when I took a better look at her, she looked like an absolute mess. Her hair looked like a mess, she lost a lot of weight, and she looked like she hadn't slept in months. Things look like they're going really rough for you. Is everything okay? No, I'm struggling a lot. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, after you left, I sort of went down this whole spiral. At least when you were there, I wasn't fully alone, but after you left, I realized just how alone I was. I tried to reach out to you, but you always pushed me away. I know, and I'm so sorry for that. I didn't mean to push you away and be so hurtful. I was just angry with a lot of things. Like what? I was angry with myself for being so alone. I was angry with your dad for leaving me alone, and I was angry that I was struggling so much. I get that. It's been 5 years and I still haven't been able to find a job. I've just been so depressed. I've nearly exhausted all the money your dad left me, and my family is cutting off helping me too. I tried to explain to them how I've been feeling, but they simply won't understand. In fact, they won't even listen to me. Oh, Jody, I didn't know you were struggling this much. And I hate constantly coming back to you. You've done the most for me, but if there's any way... I was torn. On one hand, I had made up my mind to not help Jody, but on the other hand, this was a woman who was struggling. I knew firsthand what depression could do to someone. I empathized with her. Before I knew it, I was telling Jody that I would help her again. Jody cried in joy and thanked me profusely. I was happy that I could help her out. I understood what she was struggling with, and I was never someone to leave someone stranded when they were clearly suffering. The next week, I was once again at the bank figuring things out for Jody. Turns out this time she hadn't made her mortgage payments for 5 months. I wondered why she didn't get her mortgage readjusted and maybe just reduce the monthly payments, but I just rationalized it by thinking that she was suffering too much to think clearly. As I went over Jody's mortgage, I realized she only had about $75,000 left to pay off, including her late fees and all that, to fully be done with her mortgage. Now, in the past 5 years, I had saved a lot more money, and I definitely had that amount in my account. I checked with Jody if she'd just want me to pay off her mortgage, and over time, she could pay me, and she cried. She asked me if that would be possible, and when I said it would, she promised me that she would pay me back. I told her I would get her promise in writing within the next week and then pay her loan off. I don't know how she did it, but she convinced me to pay her loan first and then make the contract with her. After I settled her loan, I made my way over to her place. There was an unfamiliar car parked in the driveway. The front door was unlocked, and when I walked in, I heard Jody laughing loudly along with the sound of another man. When I walked into the living room, I saw Jody sitting on another man's lap with her arms around him. That made me feel icky. Just a week ago, she was telling me about how much she had loved my dad and how she would never be able to get over him. She told me that my dad would have been very proud of me, and in general, she kept bringing up my dad. Looking back, that was probably her way of emotionally blackmailing me into paying off her loan. When Jody realized I was standing there, she laughed and pointed at me while she spoke to her partner. "Darling, look, that's the girl I was telling you about. She's the daughter of the man from whom I got this house. I tricked her into paying it off, and now we can live here happily." "What? What are you talking about?" "Oh, don't tell me you're really that stupid. You really think I couldn't get a job?" "I knew you could, and that's exactly why I stopped paying for you the first time around." "Oh, right. I put on that whole act and got you to pay it off." "That was an act?" "Ugh, of course." "Did you even love my dad?" "You, God, no. I just needed the money because I did not want to work. I was tired of constantly being tired, so I married an older man with money. Man, I really hoped he'd live longer." "You are sick. I can't believe I helped you out for so long. I can't believe my dad fell for you. Do you even know how much he loved you?" Yeah, I don't care. Say what you want. At the end of the day, I own a house, and that's all I care about. Plus, I get to live with my boyfriend here." I stormed out of the house. I felt my tears running down my face, and I wanted nothing more than to hurt Jody. How could she do something as vile as this? I knew I couldn't let Jody win that easily. I knew just how to get her off of her high horse. You see, since I was transferring a large amount, my bank was holding the money for a day to give me the opportunity to cancel the transaction. Jody didn't know about this, and if she had actually been smart enough, she would have waited to reveal her grand scheme. I was grateful she was stupid. I really was. I called my bank and canceled the transaction. I then blocked Jody's number and blocked her from all of my socials. I made sure that there was no way for her to reach me. I knew it would take another month or so for her to realize that the mortgage payment was not done, so I decided to move as well. I was hurting, but at the same time, I was glad I was able to give Jody a taste of her own medicine. I hoped that she would face the worst consequences, and from what I found out later, Jody's house did get foreclosed. I heard from various mutual friends and connections that she's been couch surfing for a while now. Her boyfriend left her, and she has no income as yet. She tried to badmouth me, but quickly realized that no one was siding with her. In fact, a bunch of them reached out to me to check on how I was doing. I felt like I had vindicated my dad by denying her the opportunity to own his house. I've learned to never let anyone use my emotions to appeal to me. People are crappy and will never miss out on an opportunity to use you. I've learned to let go once I've already been burnt because people rarely ever change. In a way, I guess I'm grateful for this experience. I will continue to live happily, and I will honor my dad's memories without letting them influence anything I do. Thanks for listening. Hi everyone, this is Tina. My life was seemingly perfect before I got married. I had a decent job and was all set to marry the man of my dreams. Let me give you some details about me. It will help you understand my story better. I belonged to a middle-class family. We had a good life with a quaint house in the suburbs. My life changed for the worse when I lost my parents after my high school graduation. I still blame myself sometimes, but with therapy, I have almost come to terms with it. After my parents passed away, I was brought face to face with reality. They did have a college fund for me, which I needed to use for funeral expenses. There was not much in savings because they had just purchased the house. So my dream of going to college ended there. I was left to fend for myself while also grieving my family. It pains me to even think of that time. I worked my butt off doing minimum wage jobs before landing a job as a receptionist. When my life was a little more stable, I met Jaden. I actually met him through a dating site and we quickly became close. He had a sister his age named Vienna. Vienna and I would go on to have an amazing friendship that is still the same even today. While his sister loved me a lot, his mother didn't. His mom was one of those controlling and overly entitled parents. She often made fun of me and mocked me for not going to college. She said, "I have no idea why Jaden likes you so much. Everyone in your family has been to college. We like having highly educated people in the family. Even Vienna is doing her major in business studies. It's a shame Jaden chose a dumb girl over so many people." I wanted to go to college, Esther, but after my parents' death, I had no money. There was no way I could have survived. Those are just excuses. My son and daughter both took out student loans to go to college. They didn't take the easy way by doing lowly jobs and ruining their lives. I didn't ruin my life, Esther. I worked a decent job and managed to stay afloat even after getting orphaned at 18. And I am helping Jaden pay back his debts by contributing more to the household. Around 1 year of dating, Jaden had suggested that he move in with me. His student debt was crippling him and he needed to cut down on his expenses. He did have a good job, but the loans were way too much to handle. So I allowed him to move into my house since we were going strong. I didn't let him pay rent and instead ended up footing the grocery bills. I also dipped into my savings to get his car fixed. He only paid towards his debts and gave money to his mother. So when Esther made fun of me, it really hurt. She tried to make me out to be a dumb girl who didn't deserve Jaden. She was right in a way. I didn't deserve Jaden. I deserved someone better. I just didn't know that then. Despite Esther's problems with me, Jaden married me. He loved his mother and never took a stand against her. Still, I married him. I was a stupid fool who thought that he would change and at least stand up for his wife. Well, he never did. Esther continued to insult me and take the money from her son while I footed all the bills in the house. She even moved in with a new boyfriend and made Jaden pay for his expenses too. It was a horrible situation for us. I stayed in that marriage for 2 years. I was determined to make it work. I was afraid to be alone. We fought a lot about his mother. I hated the fact that he never defended me. Jaden always ignored me and blamed me for creating problems. There is one other thing that we constantly fought about. Since Jaden was stuck paying his debts and helping out his mom, we would have to wait a long time to have a child. It devastated me, but I made my peace with it until one day Esther called everyone into her house and said, "So you must be wondering why I called all of you here. Well, I am pregnant. You will have a new sibling soon. I am having a baby boy." "Wow, that's good news, Mom. Congratulations." "You have to be kidding me, Mom. What were you thinking? You don't work and your boyfriend doesn't give you any money. How will you support this child?" "Vienna, this is a miracle child. You know I always wanted a third child, but never had the chance. I finally have my dream come true. Don't be so cruel." "You were barely a good mother to us, Mom. Do you think you are an expert at raising children? This is not a freaking hobby. Who the hell will support you? I want no part of this. I'm telling you right now." "Don't be such a witch, Vienna. We will all pitch in to help. This child will be special and won't have to ask for anything. I am confident Mom will be able to do it." I stayed silent because I didn't know what to say. I won't lie, but I felt like this was a slap in my face, and I agreed with what Vienna said. Esther depended on her children for everything, and now she was adding another member to our lives. Surprisingly, the father of the child wasn't in the house, which was very concerning as well. Somehow, I had the feeling that I was about to be in big trouble, and I was right. The next day, when I returned home from work, I found both Jaden and Esther waiting for me in my living room. I had no idea that Esther was coming to visit. I greeted them and they told me to sit down. Jaden said, "We have to talk about something, Tina. It's very important, so we need you to listen very carefully." "What is it, Jaden? What's the matter?" "You need to take a second job. Our expenses will increase a lot in the coming years." "What? Why? Are we making any big purchases or something?" "No, we will be taking in my mother and my new brother." Guys, at this moment, I felt like I was having a nightmare or something. My husband said this with a straight face, and my mother-in-law nodded with him. They looked at me as if it was their birthright to demand food and board from me, as if they are both entitled to my money. I wished that it was a bad joke, but no one laughed, and there was no hint of a smile either. After a while, it became awfully clear to me that they were not joking after all. I blinked a couple of times and said, "Let me just summarize this again. You two want me to get a second job so that I can take over the responsibility of Esther and her new baby?" That's right, Tina. Oh my God, finally you have got this one right. You are not that dumb after all. What you said is exactly what we want. And what if I don't agree to this ridiculous request that feels more like an entitled demand? You have no way to say no, Tina. I already told Mom that she can move in with us. The baby will be here in a few months, and there are a lot of expenses before that. Yes, there will be lots of expenses. We need to set up a nice nursery and a playroom for my son. I was thinking about converting Tina's study into a nursery, and I can move into the guest room, but you will have to buy a better mattress. It's super uncomfortable. Oh, and I need a monthly allowance for shopping. I need new maternity clothes and a child's clothes too. God, there is so much to do. I heard Esther rant about what she planned to do with my house and with my money. I was stunned to see that my dear husband agreed to all of her demands and decisions. Why won't he? It wasn't the money Esther was going to spend. It would be my money from 2 freaking jobs. My opinions here didn't matter. They didn't even ask for it. There were no requests, just demands. They continued to say, as you can see, Tina, the baby does have a lot of expenses. You won't understand since you don't have children. So you absolutely need to take up a second job for Mom and her baby. Yes, I'm sure you'll find some minimum wage jobs around. It doesn't have to be 2 jobs. You can also do 3, whatever pleases you. I don't think this is a good idea, guys. I'm already working a lot to support the 2 of us. Taking up 2 jobs for a baby who isn't even mine is just way too much to expect from me. When I said this, there was a stunned silence on their end. Jaden and Esther both looked at me with angry expressions on their faces. Their faces made it seem like I told her to get rid of the baby or something. I had simply said that I didn't want to shoulder Esther and the baby's expenses for who knows how long. But Jaden and Esther both jumped on me with their rage. They said, I already told you, Tina. There is no way for you to say no. This is the only way that we can afford to raise this child. Do you see that, Jaden? Tina wants me to get rid of my child. Oh my God, how can you be so cruel, Tina? Just because you don't have children, that doesn't mean no one else would. What the hell, Esther? I never said that. I don't have a baby because I want to be financially stable to take care of it. If you want to keep your child and raise him, then why don't you get your own job? Are you telling my poor old mom to get a job? Didn't you hear what the doctors said? This is a high-risk pregnancy. We can't let her work or do anything around the house. Mom is having a miracle child. We need to step in and help her. But no one else is pitching in for the baby. I will be the one to work 2 jobs and provide for everyone. And I will be the one doing house chores for 4 freaking people. Who knows, I will be told to babysit too. It's not babysitting when you're doing it for the family. You are bound to look after the baby. He will be your new brother-in-law. Vienna will also come and help at times. I highly doubt that, Esther. She already told us that she wants no part of this problem. The most she can do is pay a small amount for hospital bills. I can't blame her. She has just started working and had student loans. I have student loans too, Tina. That's why you have to get 2 jobs to help. Since you didn't go to college, it won't hurt you to join minimum wage jobs. I don't want to ruin my reputation by doing that. I don't know which was worse, the entitlement or the insults against me. They wanted me to work like an ass because I don't have a fancy college degree. Apparently, I have no self-respect, while it will kill Jaden to take up small jobs even after having a college degree. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Meanwhile, Esther and Jaden continued to rant about how this miracle child needed so much care and expensive stuff. My head was spinning, and I didn't know what to do. I decided that I needed to talk to Jaden separately, so I asked Esther to sit in the living room while I talked to Jaden privately. She protested, but this time I wasn't having it. As we went into the kitchen, Jaden said, "There was no reason to talk to me separately, Tina. I already told you what I wanted to tell you." "Yes, back there all you did was talk and tell me your demands. But what about my opinions, Jaden? Why didn't you consult me before deciding on your own?" "I didn't decide on my own. Mom was there to help me." "Really, Tina, this is the only way there is. We already told you that." "This is not the only way, Jaden. Esther can get a job, and so can you. Or you can make the baby daddy become responsible for the baby. Where the hell is he anyway?" "He will not be in the picture anymore. He left town yesterday. Mom can't be living alone in the house, so she is staying with us from tomorrow." "What the hell, Jaden? Why are you not suing the guy for child support and stuff? Just get a lawyer." "Mom doesn't want too much stress by bringing in the courts. If the father doesn't want to take responsibility, we will. We are her family after all." "You can't just say that, Jaden. I need time to at least think about it. You can't expect me to show the two new people in the house. What about our child? This will push back our timeline even more." "God, you are so selfish, Tina. It won't kill us to have kids later in life. This will be the last chance for Mom to have a baby. You know how obsessed she is with children. Don't be so selfish, Tina. We need to band together for this miracle child." "This might be a miracle for you, but it's a nightmare for me, Jaden. I am not being selfish. You are being the selfish and entitled one. Please, just give me some time to think about this." Jaden didn't say anything more and returned to the living room. There he was whispering and laughing with Esther on the couch. Meanwhile, I was freaking out with anxiety and paranoia. I really didn't want to be stuck looking after my mother-in-law and her newborn child. I saw no hope in this situation, so I went to my room, closed the door, and called Vienna. I knew she would understand the situation. I called her and told her everything. She said, "See that, Tina? This is why I told you not to marry my brother. He is nothing but a loser and a mama's boy. God, I can't believe they went this far. Their entitlement has truly gotten out of hand." "What do I do, Vienna? Just thinking about the future is making me nauseous. I don't want to do this, Vienna. I'm tired of Esther and Jaden. I feel humiliated. Jaden even pushed back our timeline to have kids because of Esther." "I can understand your pain, Tina, but you need to be strong. There is no way I will allow you to bend to their will. You need to reevaluate your marriage and see what you want to do. There is a reason why I have low contact with my family. It's time you stand up for yourself too." Vienna's words sparked something in me. It was true that Jaden never thought about anyone but himself and his mom. Hell, he didn't even care about his own sister. All these years I put up with Esther and Jaden did nothing to help. I let him take advantage of me for years. Now he was choosing his mom and new brother over me and our future child. I knew that it was the end of my marriage, but I had a hard time coming out of denial. The next morning, Esther happily moved her stuff into my house. There was a moving truck and everything in sight. I was at work when it happened and found out when I came home. Esther was on my couch smirking at me and sipping on her milkshake. I was furious and went to my room to confront Jaden. I said, "What the hell, Jaden? I only asked for a few days from you. You didn't even give me that. Have you no regard for my feelings?" "Your feelings here don't matter, Tina. My mom and her baby are more important. Their well-being is more important. What will you think about it anyway? I told you this is the only way. If you want to stay with me, you need to do this." "So, that is your final decision, is it? You won't change your mind and won't even consider my feelings. Okay then. You want me to get a second job? Sure, let's do it. The baby and your mom do matter more to you after all. Jaden had his head in the clouds. He thought that I had finally stopped throwing tantrums and agreed to his decision. He hugged me and told me that he was proud of me. Then he went to spend time with his mother. I smiled at them and went to my room. I was going to get a second job after all. I may not have a college degree, but my years of experience mattered a lot. So I was actually able to find a managerial position at a local store. It had night shifts, and which meant it would fit in with my receptionist job just fine. I took that job and went for the interview the next day. I was hired, of course. I had worked there as an employee before. They knew me well. After getting the job, I went straight to a divorce lawyer. Yes, I was going to divorce that piece of crap. When I returned home, both Esther and Jaden swarmed me for information. What information, you may ask? Well, they wanted to know if I found a job or started to look for one. I told them, yes, I found a second job. It's a managerial position, so it pays well. There will be no problems for me. That is good news, Tina. See, it wasn't that difficult now, was it? So, when will you get the first paycheck? I have a ton of stuff to buy. I need the money soon. When will you be able to give me money? I looked at them with a confused expression on my face. I pretended to not understand what they were saying at all. Yes, I have a flair for drama. I was so done with them that I didn't feel any emotion towards them anymore. I said, sorry, Esther, I don't understand. Why would I give you money? You can ask Jaden. What? Why would she ask me? You took the second job to support Mom. You are the one who needs to give her money. You can give her some now from your first job as well. I never said that I got the second job for Esther. This has nothing to do with her at all. I took up a second job so that I could hire a lawyer. Why do we need a lawyer, Tina? I told you we cannot sue the father. It will be too stressful for Mom. We cannot risk that at all. The lawyer is not for Esther either, Jaden. The lawyer is for me. I will be filing for divorce. I have already talked to one, and I am also preparing an eviction notice. This house is not a marital asset, so I don't need to allow you to be here during the divorce. Plus, you earn more than me and have enough money to rent. You can move out within a month, and don't forget to take your mom as well. Hearing this, Jaden was shell-shocked. He went extremely silent, and Esther also did the same. The expression on their faces was super funny, but I held my laughter. I didn't want them to think that I was joking or something. After some time, Jaden and Esther started to shout at me, calling me names. They didn't like the fact that I talked about divorce and eviction. They thought that I was fretting them or something. That night, Jaden slept on the couch. The two continued to berate me throughout the week until the divorce and eviction papers arrived. That hit home the reality that I was truly kicking them out. Then they started to emotionally blackmail me. They said, "How can you do this to a poor child, Tina? I know that you hate me, but my child has done no wrong. Think about my poor child." I do feel bad for the child, Esther. He will end up having a useless mom and an equally useless brother. But that is none of my concern. I will be out of his life long before he is even born. How can you say that, Tina? Have you no heart? Where will we go? How will we take care of the baby? Your mom is a third-time mother, Jaden. I'm sure she knows how to raise a child. Only her daughter turned out right, though, but she doesn't even want to talk to her anymore. Jaden and Esther continued to hound me with their emotional blackmail. The good thing was that with 2 jobs, I was rarely home, and Vienna moved in with me to make sure they don't do anything stupid. Yes, she signed a lease and would be paying me rent too. She would now be my roommate till she gets married to her fiancé. I was glad to have her support in the house. Our divorce went to court because Jaden refused to sign the papers. I was able to provide documents to show financial abuse to some extent. That led to the judge allowing us a 6-month separation period. Jaden protested a little bit but didn't know what to do. When it was time for the eviction, both Esther and Jaden created drama. They alternated between berating me to begging me. I ignored them and forced them to move out. Lawyer fees were getting heavy on Jaden, and he tried to avoid drama. Not to mention that he now had to take responsibility for 3 people. Jaden realized the severity of the situation soon. Esther and Jaden did move in together into a small apartment. Soon, it became apparent to Jaden that he had messed up. He begged to come back to my house without Esther, but I shut him out. I stuck to my guns for 6 months, after which the judge granted me the divorce. I got alimony and half his savings. It was a full win for me. Jaden looked defeated when he left the court. By that time, Esther had already given birth to a healthy baby boy, and the entire financial burden was on Jaden alone. Vienna was not talking to them and refused to give any money. She did meet the child, though. She will be a caring aunt. She simply didn't want to reward Esther's bad behavior. She is still living with me, so I am not alone. I actually left my receptionist job because I am back in college. Yes, I finally decided to pursue my dreams now that I had the money. My new managerial position with the night shift was enough to sustain me while I went to classes in the morning. With the rent from Vienna and alimony from Jaden, I'm confident that I will be able to breeze through college without a problem. Keep me in your prayers. I'm Monica, 30 years old. Let's rewind to my childhood. I don't remember much from when I was born. I don't know who my biological parents were, and I never wanted to find out. I found myself in an orphanage surrounded by other kids with dreams and stories of their own. I held on to a hope that one day I would be chosen and my life would change forever. My lucky day came when I turned 10. A wonderful couple, Lisa and Robert, scooped me up and brought me into their family. I can still remember the butterflies in my stomach as I moved into their house. It was a place of new beginnings with every room full of possibilities. A couple of years later, our family grew yet again. Lisa and Robert decided to adopt a young boy named Austin, who was just a bit older than me. Life was all rainbows. It felt like being part of any regular family doing regular things. I never felt like an outsider, and even though people around me would ask me if I was curious to know who my parents were, I simply said no, because I truly had no interest in getting to know the people who did not want me in their lives. In my head and heart, my real family was Lisa, Robert, and Austin. I was off to college, all pumped up to chase my dreams with the solid support of my parents, but life's a twisty road. It was a call from Austin. He hit me with some bad news. Our parents, Lisa and Robert, had been in a crazy accident. The world I knew, that bubble of their love, just popped. Their loss hit me harder than I could ever imagine. I realized Austin was the only family I was left with up until I met my husband, Brian. Brian and I had our own little love story centered around our shared passion for the piano. We met through our college's music club, and then when I was 24, I made a decision that was quick, almost impulsive. Brian and I had grown so close that it felt like the natural next step. We decided to get married. We were young and in love. After Brian and I got married, he landed a decent job and we moved into his mom, Bernice's house. It was all Brian's idea. He said that we would have a ton of rent money, which we could soon invest in our own place later on. Bernice had never really warmed up to me, but we managed to coexist under the same roof. She would often drop hints that Brian had settled down too early and should have explored more of life. But everything took a dramatic turn when I found out I was pregnant. Brian seemed happy when I told him the news, but I could not say the same about Bernice. Bernice, there's something we want to share with you. We're going to have a baby. A baby? You are having a baby? Yes, Mom.
We're finally going to be a grandma. We are really excited about it. Excited? This is unbelievable. You don't even have a place of your own, and now you're bringing a child into this world? We are hardly keeping up with the bills in this house, for God's sakes. Mom, don't worry. We are finally moving out. We won't take up your space anymore. You know, Brian, before Monica came into your life, you were a bright student with so much potential. You had dreams, goals, and a future ahead of you. But now, you're going to be a dad and your life's been turned upside down. Mom, it's not that black and white. I still have dreams and I'm not giving up on them. My priorities have changed a bit. Priorities? What priorities, Brian? It seems like you have completely forgotten about me. I raised you when your dad left us. You brought this woman into my house, a woman whose own parents did not want her. And what happened to the ones who finally decided to take her in? Bad luck followed them. She ruins everything she touches. You just don't get it, Brian. She was probably looking for someone to rely on, and you walked right into it. Hundreds and thousands of women out there, and you choose the one no one wants. Bernice, why do you say so much about me? I have always been nothing but nice to you. I have wanted you to accept me as part of this family, but it seems like you are determined to see the worst in me. Mom, I think Monica is right. It's time for us to find our own place as soon as possible. Brian, well, he had always been the listener in his relationship with his mom, often staying silent and just taking in what she had to say. Brian and I set out to find a small apartment of our own. I should also mention that Lisa and Robert, my parents, had a will in place, and in it, they left me a significant sum of money. Half of that money was used for the purchase of our apartment, but here's the thing, it was under Brian's name. As time went on, things started to change. Brian received a well-deserved promotion at work, and with it came a significant bump in his income. He had always traveled a lot for work. It was clear that Brian had reached whatever Bernice referred to as his potential, and it seemed to give him a certain level of smug satisfaction. He was proud of his achievements, and I was genuinely happy for him. But there was something off about his behavior. It felt like he had been pumped up by his mom, and it was affecting our relationship. During those 9 months of pregnancy, Brian was not really around much due to his demanding work schedule. It left me with a lot of alone time, but it was not all bad. Sometimes Austin and his girlfriend Lorna would come to visit. Lorna and I hit it off, and we would have these fantastic girls' nights. We would watch cheesy movies, indulge in my pregnancy cravings, and just gossip. Time passed, and it was only about 2 weeks before my due date when Brian finally came home. It's good to have you back, especially with the baby almost here. Yeah, I'm glad to be here too, babe. I need to talk to you about something. What is it? Monica, I've been talking to Mom these last few months, and it seems like she's started to come to accept you and the baby. Do you think we should call her over for the birth? Really? That's a change. Well, if you think she's genuinely coming around and wants to be part of our lives, then yeah, Brian. It might be a good idea to have her there with us. About 2 weeks after our conversation, my water broke. And that's when the roller coaster ride of childbirth began. Let me tell you, it wasn't the smoothest journey. The labor pain hit hard, and I felt like I was in a pressure cooker about to blow. But then, things took a scary turn. It wasn't just a regular labor drama. Nope. We had some fetal stress and maternal hemorrhage happening at the same time. Talk about double trouble. The doctors went into overdrive to save both of us. The medical team decided to do an emergency C-section, and I was out like a light. When I finally came to my senses, I had this beautiful baby girl in my arms, and I named her Roxy. Brian and Bernice were nowhere to be found. I was shifted into a private room, and the doctors told me I needed to stay there for some time till I fully recovered. The trauma of that birth experience left me forever changed. I was so close to the edge, so close to losing it all, that it shook me to my core. The whole ordeal was pretty darn scary. Just when I was processing everything in my room, Brian and Bernice came in. "Brian, where have you been? Did you take a look at our little girl?" I finally decided on Roxy as her name. She looks like a little Roxy, and oh, she's got your nose. "Monica, I've got some really bad news. The medical bills for childbirth are astronomical, and I don't think we can handle it. They want us to pay a huge sum, and God knows how many days you're going to spend in this room. That means nothing but more bills, and I just can't do it." "Brian, what are we going to do? I mean, we can't just leave a massive bill unpaid. I have some of the money left from what my parents left me." "That's not what I'm trying to say. This is a nightmare for me. My mom was right all along. I should have listened. I'm sorry, but we can't do anything. You should call Austin or someone to figure this out. We're leaving." "What do you mean?" "Oh, what he means is he is finally seeing the light. I told him you would be nothing but trouble. Look, Monica, I've got a good position now, and if I pay for this, it's going to derail all my plans and dreams. I will not be able to get that fancy car I've been eyeing, and I won't be able to keep up with the lifestyle I want for myself. I can't sacrifice it. I'm leaving you the apartment. You can stay there." "Brian, we can find a way. We can work this out together. This is the daughter we are talking about." "Well, your daughter. I don't want to get involved. I can't deal with this burden right now. I need to figure things out, and I don't want you or the baby to be part of that process. I'll let you know if I change my mind." "Brian, you'll let me know if you change your mind, won't you? This is not some dinner I've asked you to come for. I can't believe you're leaving us like this. Do you even realize what I've been through? The emotional distress, the trauma of childbirth, and now you're just walking away, leaving me with this enormous bill? You need to understand, Monica, you are not our responsibility. Brian can do whatever he wants. Call your so-called brother or whoever, we don't care. Son, it's time for us to leave." "Sure, Mom. Bye, Monica." So there I was, broken, abandoned, and drowning in bills. I cried my heart out for what felt like an eternity, feeling like my world had crumbled. But then I called Austin, my big brother. He was furious about the situation, but he was there for me, no questions asked, and he wasn't alone. Lorna was by his side as well, and they both stepped in to be my support system. I spent the next 10 days in the hospital recovering, while Austin and Lorna juggled everything else. They got me food and baby supplies, and most importantly, they got me through the darkest time in my life. When the day came for my discharge, I needed to deal with the huge hospital bill. It was a monster, and I did not know how I was going to tackle it. But there was Austin once again being the hero. He paid a whopping 75% of that bill, and I chipped in as much as I could. He took me to the house he and Lorna were living in, which, by the way, used to be our parents' place. It was part of the will, you see. Lisa and Robert left me the money, but the house belonged to Austin now. You know, Monica, we could teach your husband and your mom-in-law a lesson they won't forget. Maybe even get your husband behind bars for deserting you like this. Austin, I appreciate your support, but I still hope that Brian will come to his senses someday. He is the father of Roxy after all, and despite everything, I don't want to give up on that possibility. I never really liked him, you know? Even from the start, he didn't seem right for you. It was all just so fast and sudden. Give her a break, babe. She just got back from the hospital. I know you've always had my back, Austin. It's just I hope that someday Roxy can have a relationship with her father, and who knows, maybe people can change. Monica, whatever you decide, we are in this together. Monica, you know you're welcome to stay with us for as long as you want. This is your home too. Absolutely, Monica. I work from home as a realtor, so I have my fair share of free time. We can all take care of Roxy together. You guys, I don't even know how to thank you. I was lost and you both just saved me. I think I would like to say, this is where I need to be right now. So there you have it. That chat with Austin and Lorna was like 4 years ago. Time flew by and a lot has happened since then. A year later, Brian asked me for a divorce. He had met someone new and it seemed like he had not changed a bit. It hurt, especially for Roxy. He did not seem to care much about his own daughter, which was heartbreaking. But life had other plans for me. I decided to focus on different things in life. I didn't want to start dating again or get caught up in all that drama. I had my sights set on my career. I had a business degree and it was time to put it to use. I sold the apartment I got in alimony and used the funds to kickstart my own business. Fast forward to now, and I'm doing pretty well. Well, let me be honest, I have been blessed beyond words. My little business turned out to be a big hit. With my new financial security, I was able to buy a beautiful home in the same neighborhood as Austin and Lorna. Talking about those two lovebirds, they also got hitched in the span of these last 4 years. You must be wondering what happened to Brian and Bernice, right? I was too. I mean, did Brian just waltz off into the sunset with the love of his life and live happily ever after? I had all these questions swirling around in my head, and honestly, I never got proper closure from the past. But about 2 months ago, my phone rang and it was a call that changed everything. Hello, Monica, it's Bernice. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Bernice? This is quite a surprise. What can I do for you? Well, I saw this article in the local magazine about your business and how well you're doing. I must admit, I was quite impressed. It just reminded me of you and I thought I should call. Thank you, Bernice. I did not expect to hear from you after all these years. How is Roxy, by the way? Roxy's just fine. Thanks for asking. She's growing up fast. Monica, I was thinking maybe we should catch up. There are things I would like to talk to you about. Things from the past. All good intentions, dear. Don't worry. I'll think about it. I'll drop you a text on this number. All right, darling. Just try to give this old woman a chance to apologize. I couldn't help but feel confused. After all these years, why would Bernice suddenly want to reconnect to apologize? I wanted to get answers. It was a mystery that tugged at the edges of my mind. I decided to text her and we agreed to meet at a cafe. Bernice, it's been a while. How have you been? Monica, I've been well. It's been quite a journey. I don't know if you've heard about Brian. He's living with his new wife now, and it seems like he's completely cut ties with me. I haven't heard from him in a while. I'm sorry to hear that, Bernice. It must be tough. Monica, I need to say this. I know I was not the best mother-in-law to you, and I said and did some hurtful things. And what happened at the hospital, I want to apologize for all of it. I'm on your team now. Bernice, I appreciate your honesty. I accept your apology. Thank you, Monica. That means more to me than you can imagine. But there is something else I need to talk to you about. What is it? You see, the old house, it's in really bad shape now. I wanted to buy a new one, but I'm in a tough spot financially. I was wondering if you could help me, just a little, to make it happen. You must be kidding me. You just wanted to talk to me into getting you a new house now that you know I'm doing well financially. It's not like that. I really don't have anyone to rely on. Here is the money for the food we ordered, but I won't be having it. I think I'll leave now." So there I was, heading home after that surreal meeting with Bernice. Her plea for help had left me chuckling and scheming, and I could not deny the thrill of a well-constructed plan. You see, I couldn't help but feel that Bernice had underestimated me, thinking she could manipulate me just like she did back in the day. But oh, how things had changed. I was a different person now, and I was ready to play the game. I couldn't help but laugh at the audacity of my own plan that I came up with. Some might call it petty, but I prefer to think of it as justice. The scheme was simple yet satisfying. I decided to have Bernice sell her old house with Lorna's assistance at a price that was a fraction of what it was worth. I would assure Bernice that I would help her buy a new house only to ghost her at the last moment. It might seem harsh, but after everything Bernice has put me through, it felt like a taste of her own medicine. So I texted Bernice again. I decided to take the high road, or at least pretend to, and told her I was sorry for my initial reaction. I assured her that I would help her with some funds to get the new house she wanted. I also mentioned that my sister-in-law Lorna was a realtor and a market expert who could assist her in setting the right price for her house. I told Lorna about the plan, and she was all in. So off we went to Bernice's place. Wow, being here brings back a lot of memories. Yeah, but I need new memories in a new place. Look at how worn out this house is. Well, Bernice, this is not official advice, but I'm sharing it because you're a friend of my husband's sister. To be honest, this house would not cost a penny more than $70,000. What? You must be kidding me. You see, the neighborhood is quite old and the house hasn't been well maintained. It would need a complete renovation and a total makeover. You would have to replace doors and windows and do a lot more. Do you have the funds for all that? I don't. Well, you can seek other opinions, but they'll probably tell you the same. It's quite the project. I had wanted to sell this place independently. It's your call now, Bernice. Well, I'm helping you out anyway, so we'll figure it out together. I couldn't believe how smoothly everything was going. She had put her house up for sale, and it seemed like a perfect match for someone looking for a good deal. In just 2 weeks, the house was sold. It was no surprise, given the affordable price she had set, and the buyers seemed more than happy to take it off her hands. During the same time, I had accompanied Bernice in her search for a new house. The audacity of it all was quite amusing. She was looking for houses in posh neighborhoods, bungalows, and more, all for herself. It was evident that her confidence was on the rise. We finally settled on a house, and I played my role to perfection. I assured Bernice that she didn't need to worry about a thing. I would take care of the new place, allowing her to focus on packing up her old house and making a smooth transition to her new home. When the time came, I even told her that I had paid for the house, ready to hand over all the paperwork on the day she moved in. She believed every word, and my little scheme was working perfectly. The day I had been waiting for finally arrived. It was the day Bernice had to shift to her new house, and I was sitting by my phone waiting for Bernice to call. And then she did. "Monica, where are you? You said you would be here with the keys and paperwork and—" "Nope, Bernice. I didn't actually purchase that house." "Seriously? I'm out here with a U-Haul truck full of my stuff, and you're telling me you didn't buy the house?" "Well, Bernice, it hit me that I couldn't afford that place. It was a real hit to my bank account." "What's the deal? I've got nowhere to crash, and all my belongings are in the truck. You're not pulling my leg, are you? Remember when you left me high and dry with those hospital bills? I did try, just like you did back then, but sorry, I still can't be your savior." "Unbelievable that you pulled this stunt." "Well, Call your son, check into a hotel, or figure something out. I'm not fazed. Oh, it looks like Roxy needs me now. Goodbye. I told Austin and Lorna about Bernice's situation, and we could not help but laugh our butts off. It was a moment of sweet revenge, but I guess we all need a bit of that from time to time. I don't really know what's become of Bernice or where she's living these days. Frankly, I don't care. I did to her what she did to me back then. I hope her son got the message as well, that they messed with the wrong woman. Maybe it was a tad petty, but hey, sometimes you have got to get your hands dirty to teach people a lesson. It's a wild world out there, and I'm just living my life, managing my business, and enjoying every moment with Roxy. She'll be starting kindergarten soon, and I can't wait to see the amazing person she's growing into. Hello, I'm Kiara and I'm 29 years old. I only recently got divorced, and the story behind it is actually pretty wild, and I want to share it here. To start off, let me introduce you to my now ex-husband, Mikey. Mikey and I met through a dating app. We shared a lot of similar interests and actually got along pretty well over text. For our first date, we went to a bar where we ended up having a great time. And from there on, we always found an excuse to just hang out with each other. Obviously, that meant that we went on a lot more dates, and before I knew it, we were properly dating. At the time, both of us were working, but mine paid a lot more than his. He still lived with his parents while I had my own house, so he would come over to my place a lot more often than I would go over to his. Of course, I had met his parents, Janice and Hugo, but only in passing. Even in those few times that I met them, they seemed lovely. About a year and a half into Mikey and I dating, I asked him to move in with me. That marked a turning point in our relationship because that only brought us closer. The next 2 years was super blissful, so it came as no surprise when Mikey proposed and I said yes. Our wedding was an elegant affair where we invited a lot of people from both our families. It was around then that I properly interacted with his family. I usually had a very demanding job, so I was almost always way too tired to do anything but come back home and sleep, which thankfully Mikey was very understanding about. At the wedding, Janice invited me over to their place for dinner the next week, and I figured it had been high time that I spent proper time with them, so I agreed. When we went over to their place, Janice and Hugo greeted me very warmly. The dinner table was already set with dinner and each plate was served. As we sat down to eat, Janice was very insistent about where I was supposed to sit. I thought it was odd, but I didn't think too much about it. Dinner was great and I genuinely had a good time with Mikey's parents. Throughout it, they kept thanking me for everything I did for Mikey, and of course I told them that I loved him and I would do anything for him. But when I returned home, my stomach began to feel really upset. It hurt really bad and I felt like I needed to throw up. Mikey held my hair back as I puked everything that I had ingested in the day. I felt so sick, but at that time, I didn't think that it had anything to do with Janice's food. I had gone out to eat sushi with some friends that day and just chalked it up to that. The next time Janice and Hugo invited us over was about 4 months later. Once again, I had been way too caught up with work to actually go and spend time with them, so this felt like a good way to catch up. But once again, Janice was insistent about where I was supposed to sit, and after I came back home, I was violently sick. That was when I started to think something was up. I didn't say anything because it felt rude to just accuse Janice of something without having any proof. Plus, I knew that Mikey loved and respected his mom to bits and would not believe me unless I had something as proof. Well, a few months later, the same thing happened again. And that time, I didn't keep my mouth shut. I confronted Mikey about it. Okay, we need to talk. Yeah? What's up? Don't you think it's odd that every time we go for dinner at your parents' place, I come back and I get violently ill? What exactly are you trying to imply? I don't know, Mikey. It's just odd, isn't it? Whenever we go out to eat, nothing happens, but only at their place. Are you trying to say that my mom is messing with the food? If the shoe fits. Do you have any proof of her doing that? No, but then how dare you accuse her of something as heinous as that? My mother is the sweetest woman on earth, and she would never do something like that, ever. Mikey, I know you love your mom, but please, 3 times is a lot of times to get sick in the same fashion. Stop coming up with theories. They're a waste of time. And I don't want you saying anything against my mother anymore. With that, Mikey went and slept in the guest bedroom. I felt bad for saying something, but I knew that something was definitely wrong there. I became very paranoid about eating at his parents' place because of it. I didn't want to stir up any drama between them or us, so I just made up excuses to not go over. There was a point, though, where Mikey behaved differently after coming back from dinner with his parents, where he just seemed so shut off and distant, and no matter what I said to try and get him to talk, he just didn't. In hindsight, I guess that was when he found out what Janice had been doing to my food. As much as I avoided going over it, I couldn't never do it. So I would go over only on special occasions, and 2 special occasions happened to be pretty back-to-back. Janice and Hugo's anniversary and Hugo's birthday. I absolutely could not say no at that point, so I went. Of course, when I got back home, I was sick again. The first time I kept quiet about it, but the second time I approached Mikey about it again. We ended up getting into a huge fight about it because he felt like I was attacking Janice. I felt frustrated too because I was the one that was sick and I was only trying to tell him my concerns. I tried over and over again to talk to Mikey about it and maybe find some other reason for my sickness, but he wouldn't sit with me because every time I brought up my sickness, he took it as a personal attack on him and his family. I was tired of the arguing, but even more tired of getting so sick. And then Janice invited us over to dinner because Hugo got a raise, and so I went. And got sick. No surprise. This was the 6th time it happened, and I was thoroughly done. I had tried time and time again to justify this sickness as a coincidence or something wrong with the food I consumed before. But 6 times is way too much to be a coincidence. I knew that next month was Janice's birthday, so she would invite us over for dinner, and I knew I had to seize my chance to snoop around. I would ask Mikey for help, but he seemed hell-bent on his parents not doing anything wrong. I needed to find the truth, or I knew that I would go insane. The next month came before I knew it. I was busy getting ready and I prepared myself to snoop around. I bought a disguised hidden camera just in case I wasn't able to snoop around. When we got to Mikey's parents' place, I greeted them warmly. I asked Janice if I could help with the food, but she was adamant about me not helping. Why don't I help you with the food? Oh no, absolutely not. But it's your birthday. Why don't you go and relax while I take over? No, you should go sit down, especially considering you're our guest. Nonsense. I'm your daughter-in-law, right? We're family. Kiara, it's really okay. I have a lot to get done and I don't need any help. If you insist, but let me know if you need help with setting the dishes or even washing them after. Oh yes, you can do that, but before that I need Mikey's help in the kitchen. What could he do that I can't? Oh, nothing. I just need him to get something heavy from the top cabinet. Oh, all right. I'll be sitting on the patio, but first I'll just go grab myself a bottle of water. Janice being super insistent on me not helping her only made me more suspicious. Why did she actually need Mikey's help? I was tall and pretty strong, which I can confidently say because I do work at the gym. I didn't want to think that Mikey was involved in any way, but maybe that was why he was so adamant about nothing being wrong with the food at his parents' place, because he knew what was happening. I didn't know how to feel about the possibility of Mikey being in on it, but I thought that it would be a problem for me to deal with later. First, I needed to find an inconspicuous place to set up the camera that would also capture the stove where Janice was cooking. Thankfully, Janice, Mike, and Mike's dad, Hugo, were far too busy chatting to realize how long I was gone. I also decided to snoop around and see if I could find anything myself. I didn't even have to actually look very far because on the counter right next to the stove was a bunch of spices, one of which was nutmeg. I am hypersensitive to nutmeg, which means that my body treats nutmeg like an infection, and I experience allergy symptoms. Thankfully, I don't have the worst case of it, and it only affects me when I ingest it. But my symptoms include stomach aches, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, all of which I've been having every time I went over to eat there. Seeing the bottle of nutmeg there open made my blood boil. I remember telling Mikey to tell his parents about my nutmeg allergy the first time I had dinner at their place. So, had Janice actually been adding it to my food? And was Mikey in the know and still letting her do it? I managed to calm myself down by telling myself that all my questions would be answered when I saw the footage on the camera. I took a bottle of water and went and sat on the patio. Pretty soon, Hugo joined me. I decided to test the waters and see if he was aware of what was happening. "So, how's it going?" "Oh, not so good. My health has kind of been acting funny." "Oh no, what do you mean?" "I've been having these really bad stomach aches and diarrhea." "Do you know what's causing it?" "Funny thing, it only happens after I eat at your place." "At ours? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there something you're allergic to?" "Yeah, nutmeg, but that's about it." "Well, I know that Janice hates nutmeg with a passion, so that could not be the case. Does it not happen when you eat elsewhere?" "No, I tested it out and nothing happened. I'll probably just visit the doctor if I get sick again after this." "Yeah, and let me know if you need my help." So Hugo was not aware of what was happening. He seemed genuinely concerned for me, and I didn't think that he would have been capable of acting too realistically. I mean, I've seen the man try to keep a surprise from Mikey before, and that was painful to watch. I waited until Janice called us in for dinner to make my excuse to go get the camera back. I walked into the kitchen and took the camera off the wall where I had positioned it. Then I went back into the dining room and just ate the food that was served to me. There was no way for me to check the footage until I went back home and inserted the SD card into my laptop. I decided to just bear with everything for just one more night. By the time I got back home, I was sick once again. You would think that after 7 times of experiencing this, I'd get used to it, but it really felt like the first time all over again. Mikey barely spared a glance my way, which only made me think even more that he was involved. I had to deal with my sickness while staying up until Mikey fell asleep to review the footage. By the time I started feeling better, Mikey had been fast asleep. I removed the SD card from the camera and inserted it into my laptop. I was nervous to play the footage because if it revealed what I had been suspicious of, I didn't know how I'd react or feel. When I played the footage, everything I had been scared of was confirmed. I saw Janice and Mikey happily talking away while she stirred the pot of food, and then she picked up the bottle of nutmeg and turned to Mikey, who laughed at her as she put it into the stew. I was appalled. Mikey, of all people, knew just how much I had been suffering, and he continued to let me get hurt. This was not something I was going to let go so easily. I didn't want either of them to realize that I had found out about their gimmick, so I pretended like everything was fine while I planned my next course of action. The first thing that I was going to do was file for divorce. I lied about going to work the next day and instead went straight to the lawyer's office and started the filing process. Then I went over to my mom's place to try and figure out what to do next. "Hi, honey. What brings you over right now? Is everything all right?" "Hi, Mom. Actually, everything's going to hell right now." "Uh-oh, what happened?" "Well, I'm getting a divorce." "Divorce? What do you mean? Why?" "Well, for the past few months, every time I went over to Janice and Hugo's for dinner, I would come back home really sick. I would tell Mikey that Janice must have done something, but he would always brush me off." "Oh no, do you think she was adding nutmeg?" "Yeah, but I don't think so. I know." I decided to do some snooping around. I also managed to get a hidden camera to secretly record everything that happened in that kitchen. I watched her put the nutmeg in as she laughed about it. "What a horrible woman! What is wrong with her? How are you feeling right now?" "I'm okay, but I wasn't last night." "Okay, that's good to hear, but what does that have to do with you getting a divorce?" Mikey stood by Janice as she put the nutmeg in and laughed with her. "What?" "Yeah, I don't think I can spend any more time with him. I can't be with someone who would intentionally harm me or even watch someone harm me." "Of course! And you can come and stay with me, okay? I'll be here to support you throughout." "Thanks, Mom. But I was also thinking, do you think you could help me do something to get revenge?" "Oh, absolutely. But first, why don't we have some lunch? I promise there won't be any nutmeg." Being with my mom only helped me feel better. She had a way of easing all my worries and turning my bad mood around. We chatted over lunch about everything else, excluding what was currently going on in my marriage. When we were done, we sat down on the couch and began to talk about potential ways to get back. We eventually decided to mess with Janice's food. Mikey would get what he deserved when I served him the divorce. Thankfully, we had separate accounts for everything and the house was in my name. He would get absolutely nothing and he would go back to living with his parents. But messing with Janice's food while it was only a few of us present was not going to be very fun, so I had to find a reason to throw a party where people from both Mikey and my family could attend, and we found the perfect reason. It was my mom's birthday in 2 weeks and she was turning 50, which is a milestone birthday. It was the perfect reason to invite a bunch of people over, and watching Janice get humiliated would only make it better. When I got back home that evening, I talked to Mikey about hosting a party for my mom. "So, it's my mom's birthday pretty soon." "Oh, right. Is she doing something?" "Not really. I was thinking, do you think we could throw her a party at our place?" "I don't mind, but why our place?" "I was thinking we could do it like a surprise party for her, considering she's turning 50. "Oh, yeah, absolutely, we can." "Great! And about the guests, who do you think we should invite?" "Well, for sure your family, and see if her friends would like to join too." "Sounds great. You know what? Invite your family too." "Are you sure? My family isn't exactly close to yours." "It's all right. We can bond them. We'll make this a big celebration." "Sounds like a blast." Everything was going according to plan. I was busy preparing for the party for next week. I prepared all the food and cleaned the place up. Ever since I filed for a divorce, I began to notice things about Mikey that irked me even more. Like him not even helping me with the party one bit, and instead watching TV as I worked my butt off. It only made me feel better about my decision to leave him. As the preparations for the party were coming together, I also went and collected the divorce papers. Everything was set. Finally, on the day of the party, the guests all gathered in our backyard and surprised my mom. The evening went well, and when it came to dinner time, I handed out everyone's food already served on plates. That allowed me to mess with Janice's food separately. Now, I didn't know about any of her food allergies, but I did know that laxatives would induce the same symptoms that I had. So I mixed some strong laxatives into her food. I waited half an hour before noticing Janice starting to look uncomfortable. She excused herself to go to the washroom, but oh, the washrooms were in use. Well, we had 2 bathrooms, and my mother stayed in one of them for a couple of minutes while I locked the other one. Janice looked wildly uncomfortable by that point. She was pale and sweaty. I made sure to make a scene about it by loudly asking Janice if she was okay. It drew everyone's attention to her. She looked embarrassed as she said she was fine. Finally, my mom walked out and apologized because she was just touching up her makeup. That only made Janice angry, which was funny to watch because she looked like a cartoon character at that moment. The crowd went back to talking to each other until we heard loud sounds coming from the bathroom. Everyone went silent as the sounds came through. 5 minutes later, Janice walked out and the crowd erupted in laughter. Janice's face grew red from embarrassment. She walked up to me and poked my chest accusingly. "You did this." "What do you mean?" "I know you messed with my food." "Oh, Janice, I don't think so." "You don't think so? Then why am I the only one with an upset stomach?" "Wait a minute. Is this why you asked me to invite my family over too? So you could mess with my mom?" "I just know she did. I was completely fine before this." "Listen, Kiara, I know you have this stupid doubt, but this has gone too far. You're physically hurting my mother." "What doubt are you talking about?" "You know, the silly one about my mom messing with your food whenever we go to my folks' place to eat." "Oh, you mean like this?" I sent the video to every guest sitting there. Everyone's phones pinged and they opened the video to watch Janice put something in the stew while she and Mikey laughed together. Mikey and Janice also received the video and their faces grew pale as they watched it. "So it was a silly doubt, Mikey? Because you know what's in that bottle? Nutmeg. You know how bad my stomach aches because of it, and yet you stood by Janice while she poisoned the food." I swear it's not what you think." "I literally don't see what other explanation you have. I can't stand you anymore. So here," handing him the divorce papers, "get out of my house and my life." "No, don't do that. Mikey is innocent. I just did that because I never liked you and I knew that Mikey would never say a word against me." "Well, that's even worse to know. If my husband can't even stand up for me against his mother, he doesn't deserve to be my husband. You know, you're lucky all I did was this. I could have pressed charges, but I'm only going to let it go if you guys quietly leave." With that, Janice and Mikey quietly left. Hugo stayed back to apologize for their behavior, and I assured him that he had done nothing wrong and had nothing to apologize for. I also asked him to stay back and continue to celebrate with us. But I guess it's safe to say that Janice and Mikey's reputation in the family has gone down by a lot. My divorce just got finalized and I am a free woman as of today. It will take some time to get over everything because as strong as I was with handling everything, now that it's all over, reality has been hitting me. I will never get to spend another day in Mikey's arms. And I will miss that for a while. But I know that I'm strong enough to get over it and move on. And of course, for those of you wondering, my mom was super happy with the outcome as well. Plus, I did take her to this really fancy restaurant to both celebrate her milestone birthday and thank her for her support and help.
Hello, my name's Billy and I'm 28 years old. I only got married to my husband Carl 2 years ago, but his mother Helena and I have had a pretty rocky relationship to say the least. Thankfully, a chance encounter with a childhood friend saved my life from my mother-in-law's evil scheme. Let me introduce you to my relationship with my husband, Carl. Carl and I met at a bar. It was a classic right time, right place situation. We hit it off pretty well that night and exchanged socials where we began to talk almost endlessly. I remember we used to even stay up until 5 a.m. just texting each other. Our relationship remained unlabeled for a while because neither of us was looking for any commitment, but eventually we found ourselves getting more and more attached to the other, so we decided to just make our relationship official. We dated for around 2 years before tying the knot. While my relationship with Carl was amazing and pretty smooth sailing, there was one hiccup: his mother, Helena. Helena was a force to be reckoned with. Whatever she wanted, she got, even if she had to get it by hook or crook. While that was an admirable quality, it was not when you put it in the context of her trying to get rid of me. Helena never approved of me from day one, and after Carl told her how we met, she disliked me even more. I don't know why, but she had it in her mind that I was an attention seeker who was after Carl's money, even though I made 2 times more than Carl did. Anyways, she was never subtle about her dislike for me. She was always rude and insulting, although she did make sure to always do it behind my back. She would purposely try to hurt me in little ways, like sticking her leg out to trip me, or she'd purposely spill either ice cold or really hot drinks on me accidentally. At first, I did think all of those things were accidents, but after a while, having a drink poured on you at every meeting tends to feel like more of a coincidence, so I approached Carl about it. "I don't think your mother likes me." "What do you mean? My mom loves you." "Well, she's tripped me 1 too many times." "Nonsense. Even you have to admit that you're a little clumsy most times." "Sure, but she's also poured a lot of drinks on me, all of which have been extremely cold or extremely hot. Ever. Every single time I've met her." "I don't know about that, but I can tell you that my mom is very overprotective of me. And maybe you're just amplifying things because you're upset and she hasn't fully approved of you in the way that you want it." "I don't know. It's very odd, to say the least. But if she really doesn't like me, would you stand up for me?" "Of course. But I'm telling you, she just needs some time. Just bear with her shenanigans for a little longer and she'll come around." "All right, if you say so." I couldn't bring myself to believe what Carl said immediately, but I believed that he knew his mother better than I did. So I gave it my best shot. I made sure to always do my best and behave my best whenever I was around her. I made sure to take over something whenever I went over, and I never spoke unless I was spoken to. Of course, I felt like a woman from the 18th century, but I was willing to do anything to get Helena to approve of me. One day, Helena called me out of the blue. That was very odd because every time she needed to communicate, she would call Carl and never me. I quite literally jumped when I saw her call. My heart raced as I picked up the phone. "Hey, Helena, everything all right?" "Oh, yeah, of course. I was just calling you to see if you're free this weekend." Yeah, why?" "Great. I was thinking maybe we could go out together." "You want us? As in you and me to go out together?" "Yes, I know. I've been giving you a hard time, but I want to make up for it." "Oh, of course. Where will we be going? And at what time?" "I was thinking we could grab lunch at 1 in the afternoon at Savant. That's my favorite restaurant of all time." "Sounds fancy." "Oh, it is. So you better dress well." "I will. I'll see you there then." I couldn't believe that Helena had wanted to go out with me. I mean, yes, it was weird, but all I could think about was how my hard work was paying off. Regardless of her being mean to me, she really did need time to come around and warm up to me. I was ecstatic and even bragged about it to Carl. He was happy that the 2 most important women in his life were finally getting along and that he no longer had to stand in the middle of both of us.
The weekend couldn't have arrived faster. I waited all week for it. I even planned my outfit the day Helena called me. I made sure to look my very best while still maintaining some casualty because I didn't want to seem like a try-hard. I had worn a beautiful pantsuit that Carl assured me Helena would approve of. When I arrived there, Helena gave me a once-over and scoffed. I didn't know if she approved or disapproved, but I figured anything was better than her yelling at me for not dressing appropriately enough. Once inside the restaurant, we were quickly seated inside and we were assigned a waitress. The waitress that served us looked oddly familiar. As she walked to our table, I couldn't help but feel like I knew her, but I couldn't quite place my finger on how. Then I saw her name tag and it read Daisy. That's when it clicked in my brain. Daisy was my best friend growing up. We were neighbors when we were growing up. Our families were close because of us. There was nothing that I did that she didn't, and vice versa. We were both only children, so we were like sisters to each other. It became common for people around us to assume where one was, the other was going to be there too. But when we were in the 7th grade, her dad had gotten a better job opportunity in the neighboring state and they had to leave. I still remember just how much the both of us cried when we found out. The entire month before she left, we had sleepover after sleepover at my place. She practically lived at my place while her parents packed to leave. And in those days, accessing a telephone was not that easy, although we did keep in touch in whatever way we could. Eventually, though, our lives got different. I made new friends, and so did she. What little contact we had dwindled down to nothing, and that was it. I used to reminisce about us from time to time, but as the years passed, I sort of forgot about her. But then, there she was, working as a waitress in a high-end restaurant. When she approached our table, it seemed like she recognized me too. We gave her orders, and I wondered if it would be rude to get up and excuse myself to go talk to Daisy. After all, that was the first time Helena had been nice enough to actually invite me to some place. Before I could even bring it up, Daisy came to our table again to cross-check our orders. In the process of doing it, she spilled some water on me. She profusely apologized while dabbing away at my pants before leaving a note there. I looked at her in confusion, but she just bobbed her head subtly in the direction of the note. While she was still dabbing at my lap, I discreetly read the note, and it said, "Come to the washroom ASAP. It's urgent." That only made me more confused and concerned. I decided to go to the washroom as per her note. I excused myself and made my way to the washroom. I waited there for about 2 minutes before Daisy walked in. She looked through all the stalls to make sure that none of them were occupied and then came back to me and hugged me really tight. I was surprised, but hugged her back too. "Hey, Daisy, it's lovely to see you again. What's been going on?" "I would love to catch up with you, Billy, but there's something I need to tell you." "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" "With me, yes. With you, it's not going to be. I couldn't just drag you away from your table, so I left you a note." "What do you mean by it's not going to be okay with me?" "Well, the other day I was on shift when the lady sitting in front of you came over with her friend. She's my mother-in-law, and that was probably her best friend that she walked in with." "Holy crap. That's your mother-in-law?" "Yeah, why?" "Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's you that she was talking about, but I was just trying to be extra careful about any other woman she brought along with her to this restaurant." "What in the world are you talking about?" "Right. I overheard her talking about poisoning her daughter-in-law's food with something she's allergic to. I'm sure if she has another daughter-in-law, but I'm warning you, just in case, run." Wait. Are you sure it was her?" "Yeah. Hold on. I secretly recorded the entire conversation while I cleaned their table. I put my phone in my shirt's pocket and went about cleaning as slowly as I could." Daisy whipped out her phone and scrolled for a little while through her photos before finally finding the video she wanted to show me.
And just like she had described, there was Helena and her friend Betty sitting and talking. They were talking about how I was a disrespectful daughter-in-law and how I didn't know how to take care of either myself or her son. Helena was even bragging about how she had been tormenting me for so long just to put me in my place. She called me pathetic for doing whatever I could to gain her approval, which really stung because she was my mother-in-law and my husband's mother. Of course I wanted her to like me. Anyway, she carried on talking about how she planned to test me by adding some finely crushed peanuts into my food while I wasn't looking, just to see if I would recognize it. She also thought that it would be funny to make a scene about my allergy because she thought I was just saying some bogus. Watching that video shook me to my core. First of all, I knew she was referring to me because she had only one son and one daughter, so it wasn't hard to guess that I was the daughter-in-law she was referring to. Secondly, I have a deathly allergic reaction to peanuts, so much so that I can't even have any form of cross-contamination or I will go into anaphylactic shock. It was appalling to see Helena talk about it in such a casual manner, especially talking about triggering it, which could potentially kill me. I thanked Daisy for the heads up, and she assured me that she was just doing her best to protect another woman, but she was glad that she was able to help me. We exchanged phone numbers, and I told her that I might have to use her name to get out, and she told me I was clear to do it. I gave her a generous tip and made my way back to our table. When I got to the table, Helena looked impatient and upset. "Where have you been? My goodness, you look like you peed your pants." "I know. I met the waitress while she was on her way back to her station and she apologized, so at least she was sweet about it." Ugh, these waitresses don't know a thing about customer service. No, it's okay, but I think I'll have to leave and go back home. My pants are way too wet and I feel really uncomfortable. Nonsense. Just sit down and we'll carry on. I'm really sorry that I have to bail, but the AC's up pretty high and I'm feeling really cold. I don't want to get sick and I would much rather go back home. Wow, you're really going to leave the one time I've extended a hand to get to know you better? I know, and I feel really bad, but this was something completely out of my control. I'm going to have to leave right now, but you go ahead and enjoy your time here. I left after saying that. I drove back home immediately, but before I reached it, I stopped by a gas station and texted Daisy to send me the video of Helena talking about her plan. She replied almost instantly, and when I had the video saved, I drove back home. Carl was obviously surprised to see me there because he had seen how excited I was, and I ended up coming home way too early. I didn't actually say anything to him, although I did rush straight to the bathroom to take a hot shower. I wanted to get whatever happened off of me. I was scared that Helena may have put the crushed peanuts on my clothes or in my hair, just any way to harm me if her plan failed. I scrubbed myself down thrice, and when I was done, I threw my clothes into the wash. After which, I once again scrubbed my hands clean. Carl just stood in the corner and watched me clean myself like a maniac, but didn't say a word. He just waited until I was done so I could explain to him what had happened. "Do you want to talk about it now?" "Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just paranoid." "What on earth were you paranoid about? You were out to lunch with my mom." "Well, I happened to run into a childhood friend who works as a waitress there." "Oh, that's nice. Is that why you're paranoid, though?" "Kind of. She spilled some water on me and asked me to meet her in the washroom because she had something important to tell me." "That's odd." "Turns out she wanted to warn me that your mother wanted to harm me." "What? Are you sure that it was my mom? And even if it was, are you sure that it was you?" "Well, I'm the only daughter-in-law she has, so I'm pretty sure it was me." "How did your friend know about this?" "Helena had gone there with her friend and they were discussing the plan. My friend happened to be their server and overheard the entire thing." "And you're going to take the word of a friend you used to have just like that?" "No, of course not. But she did manage to record the conversation and I have it with me here." I played the video for him and Carl's eyes got wide. He was just as appalled as I was. At that point, he realized just how bad his mother had always been treating me. All those times that I told him about her absurd behavior and he brushed it off came crashing into his mind. Not to mention, he had been there once when I got hospitalized after I had consumed something that had peanut traces in it. That experience alone was traumatizing for him, and to find out that his mother had planned to put me in a similar situation was jarring. He apologized to me a lot for his past behavior, and of course, I let it go. I knew where he had been coming from, after all. Who could ever imagine their own mother trying to actively harm their spouse? We talked about his mother's plan for a long while and concluded that it would be best if we never met her in person ever again. We didn't want to risk her trying to hurt me again. Of course, that night, she called Carl to complain about me being indecent for running away.
Carl, we need to talk about your wife.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, so you have something to say too?
Absolutely.
I knew it. But let me go first. That wife of yours is beyond disrespectful. You know what she did today?
She left early?
Yes, exactly. I had taken time out of my busy schedule to try and actually spend some one-on-one time with her, and that's what she did. The audacity of her. I'm telling you, it's high time that you leave her. If she can't respect your mother, is she really worth it?
Why would she try to respect my mother when my mother tried to poison her?
Excuse me? What? Can't act all high and mighty now? What are you talking about? I didn't try to poison her.
Right. That's why I have a video of you discussing how you were going to mix crushed peanuts into her food with Aunt Betty.
That was not real. We were only joking.
Joking or not, that was a sick joke to make. I'm glad. Billy was informed about it and got herself out of the situation fast. Neither of us wants you to visit us ever again. We can chat and video call, but that's about it. If you show up to meet us anywhere, we will release the video and get a restraining order against you. Goodbye, Mom. Carl cut the call with that, and let me just tell you, it was really liberating to have him stand up for me. He was able to tell Helena all the things I wished to have told her from the start. Helena did try to call and text us again after that, but we felt like we deserved at least some space from her for a little while. We spent the next few months living blissfully. Carl still kept trying his best to make up for his ignorance, even though I assured him that I had already forgiven him for it. Helena, of course, did keep calling Carl, and every so often he would pick her calls up. Of course, she would say nothing but insults against me. She would tell him that he was being disrespectful towards his mother by listening to his wife's lies. Of course, he would never listen to what she said, and he would always make up some excuse to hang the phone up. Initially, we were skeptical about Helena listening to our fret, but for months, she did only communicate via calls and text. Just when we were beginning to let our worries subside, Helena decided to come over. You see, Carl had gotten tired of hearing Helena insult me, and in the process, he too, so he ignored her calls for around 2 weeks. She did not like that, and she decided that the best course of action would be to show up at our house. She rang our doorbell incessantly and kept yelling for us to open up. We tried to ignore her, but eventually the loud ringing of the doorbell started to give me a headache, so Carl opened the door to her. She shoved him aside and stomped into the house. I tried my best to stay as far away from her as possible because she really did look like she was really angry and ready to cause harm. I did not want to be caught up in that, but I was also curious to see why she had come over. "Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't we—"
"Don't you start with me, Carl. I'm your mother, and I have a right to know about what's going on in your life."
"Sure, but you've never actually asked me what's been going on in my life. All you've been giving me are your unsolicited opinions on my wife."
"They're not opinions, they're facts.
Look, I'm sorry I ignored your calls, but you need to leave now."
"I'm not leaving until your witch of a wife comes here and apologizes for defaming me."
"Defaming? She didn't do anything like that."
How can you stand up for her against your own mother? I didn't at first, but then I saw the proof and I couldn't side with you anymore. So get out, please. That proof is fabricated, like I'd ever tried to put crushed peanuts in her food. Like I said, I don't care that you were joking. It's still highly suspicious that you invited her out to lunch after years of her trying to get into